This is a compilation video, so you may have seen some of these over the past 4 years, but I hope you enjoy a second look.
So the first project is our Cat Sisters makeover. I got this little thrifted wooden kitty cat duo. Very cute. It's got a little broken tail, but that's okay. This is a little pumpkin. It's just a little plastic pumpkin. I'm going to have some black and orange paint. I do not use that orange paint, by the way. I decided to use this pumpkin paint instead in the chalk paint. Some paint brushes. Protect your surface for this because we're going to be painting these kitties black. Giving it a Halloween makeover. Just going to shake up my paint. Put a little down here. And then start brushing it on. I like a flat brush because I feel like I can really get in all those little cracks and those little tight spaces. So since this has a hole in it, I'm just going to put a stick in the bottom to help me hold it while I am painting it. That way I won't get quite as much paint on my hands. I always, somehow or other, always end up with paint all over myself. I even found some on my arm the other day. No idea how it got there. So I'm just going to put this paint, I know you can't see, but I'm just going to put this paint all over, and since it's a little bit thicker, I'm just going to go up and down with the the stripes of the pumpkin. After it's dry, I'm going to go back over the eyes with some jet black paint. If it's easier for you, go ahead and just use a permanent marker or an acrylic marker for this. This would have been very difficult for me if I didn't have my magnifier glasses on. Ladies, I'm almost 50, so yes, I do use them, and they are very helpful when crafting. So you might want to get you a pair just to have when you're crafting. So here are the kitties, nice and dark. I'm going to get a little bit of Mod Podge and put on the eyes of the largest kitty because his eyes are open. So I'm just going to paint right on the raised area. I'm not going to put it down in the space around it because we want his eyes to glow. So I'm going to add some glitter to the eyes. Well, it's a she. We're going to call it a she because these are going to be sisters. So here's some glitter. This is kind of a fine glitter, and it's black, and it just reminded me of Halloween when I saw it. Just going to dot some on and then shake it off, and this is how it will look. And then when it dries, you won't see the Mod Podge underneath, so all you'll see is the beautiful color from that glitter. We're going to do the pumpkin like that as well. I'm just taking a little brush, using my pinky finger to steady my hand there, and I'm going to go all over the black area with this, and the nose also. And I just use my finger. When I get out of the lines, I just use my finger to wipe that off, so, it makes it easier. You want to keep going. Don't get too frustrated when you craft. It's supposed to be something that is fun and that brings you joy, and if it's getting annoying or aggravating or tedious, you just need to get up and walk away for a little while. Maybe go out on the porch, take a break, and then come back in and get back to it. So I'm sprinkling that on again and then tapping it off, and this is how the little pumpkin is going to look. And I think it's cute. Love that glitter. And I'm not generally a glitter kind of person, but gotta have it during the holidays, right? Alright, so now I'm just going to take a little bit of my antiquing wax and go over the little stem area here. I didn't want to do green, so I'm just going to try to darken it just a little, and then using a paper towel, I'm just going to kind of dot some of it back off. Now I'm going to put a little embellishment around the kitty's neck, and I have a little bit left of my orange rickrack. I'm almost out, and I'm so sad because I've got so many more crafts I want to do with it. Hopefully I can find some more when I'm thrifting. And I'm just going to wrap these two around together. I'm not trying to make them look like they are connected, and you may think with it wrapped this way that it'll look like that, but we're going to do something to definitely show that it is two different pieces. I wish you could see more of the detail on these cats. It's just really hard with the color of the paint and my lighting in the basement to really show the detail. Alright, so this is some old velvety ribbon. I'm going to cut it into pieces and make some little bows so that each kitty cat has their own bow. And this will make it kind of look like that's not one piece, you know, like it's a little collar or a little necklace, but it's not just one piece, that it's actually two individual little collars. So it's a simple bow that I do on lots of things. I think everybody knows how to make this bow. Again, I'll show you how to do it again. Easy peasy. And then pulling on the parts that hang down is going to give you how long or short your little strings are going to be, or the tails are going to be, and you can adjust your loops of your bow by just pulling on those. So I'm going to make them small, and the one that goes on the littler, the smaller kitten, is going to be just a little bit smaller, and I'm going to do it off slightly to the side. Now see, doesn't that look like two different ones? I have these cute little pom-poms, and I'm going to add those to each of the kitty's little collars. It's not quite the color orange. It's more of a apricot or peachy color, but I think it works. I think it'll be okay. Aren't they sweet? Okay, so now we want to give them a pumpkin. I'm just going to put this down and see where it's going to fit the best, because there are some dips and depressions in the little statue, so I want to make sure that the pumpkin kind of nestles in there. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking to see if there's enough area that's touching the two items together so that the glue will hold them and it won't fall apart. And I have more area over here on this side, so this is where I'm going to put it. And you can see that I've marked it a little bit with the chalk paint from the pumpkin. That was totally accidental, but it worked perfectly, so I knew where to put my glue. And I'll stand it up so that I make sure that everything is flat when it's displayed. And this is how the kitties will look. Aren't they sweet? I love them. The next project is a cat boo shelf sitter. Okay, I'm going to have some jet black paint, some orange paint, some red paint. This cat that came from the thrift store, I have no idea if it's old or not. This also came from the thrift store. And then I got some crafting thick cardboard paper stuff. Foam board, if you will. I don't like the foam board. I'm going to tell you that I did it because I had already started and I didn't have another cat. But I do not recommend foam board for this project. Go ahead and just use regular poster board. All you really need is something that will give this cutout some strength and structure, because he will be standing up in this project. And yeah, you don't want to do this, but you can see how I do it because you can use the same technique. So I put Mod Podge down first, put the cat down, and put more Mod Podge on. We're going to use a base also. Forgot to show it to you, so there it was. Those signs come from the Dollar Tree, and they're really good to use for projects. I'm going to mix my own paint here by adding some orange and some red together, and then a little bit of chalk paint. I am trying to get the orangey red that is around the outside of the cat. He's trimmed in that color, so I was trying my best to match that color, and I think I came pretty darn close, if I must say so myself. So I'm going to take one pumpkin and the bee and paint the front this orange color. I'm going to go all the way over, and I gave them 2 coats each. I had some little clumps. You just see me digging them out with the paintbrush. Some of my paint's getting old. That's all you have to do if that happens. Just brush it out, wipe it off, keep on moving. No excuses to stop crafting, people. We just keep going. We just power through it. Okay, so we're going to do the front of the B also. And I'm going to get on the inside of the letter B, but not the outside. And I'm also not going on the outside of the pumpkin with the orange. So the pumpkin that we didn't paint the front of, we're going to paint that outside orange. This will make sense to you soon. This looks like something that came from either Michael's or Hobby Lobby or maybe Joann's. So you might can find them there or something similar anyway. So you can do it the same way. All you want really is the word boo. And I'm going to go all the way around the edges with that. Then the first two that we painted, I'm going to take the black and very carefully go around the outside. I'm using a smaller brush here because I don't want the black to overlap onto my orange, so I'm just placing the brush down and kind of dragging it. There are some ridges in this MDF or whatever this stuff is that I'm painting on, so I'm not going to make you watch this whole thing, obviously, but just take your time with it so you don't have any overlapping. Now on the one that has the painted sides but not painted on the front, I hope you're with me, y'all. You're going to use a piece of paper of your choice that's coordinating. This is very old paper that I've had forever. And you're going to turn your pumpkin over, trace it, and then cut it out. We're going to Mod Podge this down. I'm just going to use a brush here, a little foam brush, and just go all over the pumpkin to the edges with the Mod Podge. Not too much Mod Podge or you will get bubbles, the paper will get soaked and it'll make a mess. So just go sparingly, enough to stick it down but not have it swimming. And then I'm going to use my little squeegee here and just press it all down. Press it, press it, press it all the way down to the edges and push a little bit harder to the edges so that it really gets every bubble, every possible air bubble out of there. And then I'm going to take the brush and go back over it on the top to lock it in, and then we will let that dry. So that black paint that we used before, we're going to use it on here. Let it dry. In the meantime, I'm going to fight with the cat. So I'm using a crafting knife here and cutting it out. I'm going to cut the biggest pieces away from it first, all the bulky stuff. And then I will go back in and do all the fussy cutting. And I mean to tell you, I was fussing while I was cutting. This was a lot of work. But here she is in all of her glory. I'm going to use an emery board. And I'm going to just file down where you can see the foam that's hanging out and looking rough. File down as much as I can, carefully. And then I'm going to take some black paint and I'm going to go over all of the white foam and board that is underneath. This is going to give it such a better edge and finish. It's just going to look so much better. You can see it's already starting to look better. I'm trying not to overlap it onto my red trim there, or my orangey red trim, but you see that color. That's the color that I was trying to imitate. It looks pretty close to the bee over there, I think. And be sure you protect your surfaces. So now we're going to go back to this one and work on it. I'm going to use my emery board and I'm going to file off my edges. This is going to make it nice and smooth, and it is going to be perfect. You can use a sanding block, sanding paper, a finger sander, whatever you have for this. You see how bright that is? We're going to darken that up in just a minute. So I'm going to take some antiquing wax on a baby wipe, and we're going to go over those orange, the pumpkin and the letter, all around the edges with this. This is going to give it kind of that blurred out look, that old look. You know, the point of the antiquing wax is to give it an antique look, so it's going to age it, and that's what I like and what I want for this vintage project, because I think it looks very much like what's going on with the cat. I'm going to go around the bee and do the same thing, go all around my edges, and also be sure to get like on the inside of the letter, any place that it would be needing some extra shadow and interest. And they look so much better. And then I'm going to bring down that white color by just using that same wipe that I've already been using and just kind of go over it, and you can see it automatically darkens it up a little bit, and I like that. And then the same technique we're going to use on the edge of this one. Where we sheared it off, we're going to go over it and then go up as high as you would like on your projects. Keep on layering as much as you like. I always like to start off with the least amount And then I begin to, get it a little bit darker, add some little spots and such so that I don't go overboard first off. Looks good. Okay, you can see here how I've glued the kitty down. I put a block behind his foot, colored it black, and glued it to the base. I took the bee and the 2 pumpkins and glued them down toward the back of this black base. And then up here on the top, you can see that I glued the kitty's hand right there on the bee. I'm going to flip it over here and show you. This is how it looks from the back. He's glued in place here. You can see where the letters are glued right along the back side here. Just to give you an idea of the spacing. And then his little paw is glued up here from the back. You can't even see it from the front, can you? Now, to embellish this little kitty cat, he's got 3 little dots on him that look like where he might be needing hinges. Kind of like the little hinges you see in the little cutouts that you can move their arms up and down. Has those little round things on them. So I decided to use these bronze little push pins or upholstery pins. Cut them off. Cut the little pokey part off. And then I'm going to use them over those shoulder and the leg. But this little spot on the back didn't make sense to me. So I'm just using a dark furniture repair marker to kind of add to that and pat it, kind of blend it in so it's not as noticeable. Then I'm going to use my Fix-All adhesive so I don't burn my fingers off trying to use the glue gun. I'm going to put a dot down and then I'm going to lay it on the top, press it down just a tad, and then up here on the shoulder I'll do the same thing. I'm just kind of swirling off the tip of it so I don't get a string of it across my project. Then let it dry, and this is how it is going to look. Oh, she's our little sisters. How cute they are with their jack-o'-lantern. You can see that the Mod Podge is dry. All you see is the glitter. If you've enjoyed the content in this video, I would love a thumbs up. And the easiest project is a framed cat. Here's a little thrifted frame that I got. And this is a lantern from Dollar Tree. I'm going to choose which panel I want to use because it has 4 panels, 2 different prints, and I like the cat, so I'm going to cut the cat part out and then make sure that it works. And yes, it is going to fit nicely in that frame. Perfect. I'm going to cut the top off. I'm going to spray that frame in this black. Once it is dry, we will proceed. Check, check, and recheck, right? I'm going to trace on a piece of scrap paper right on the inside of this frame. And then I'm going to cut right to the outside of the line. You see I leave about 1/4 of an inch, give or take, because it does get a little bit bigger as I go around the curve here. And we're going to use this kind of as a template to make sure that I don't cut too much off, but that I have enough to glue down. It'll make sense in a minute. So I'm going to place that down and just use a little bit of regular Scotch tape, transparent tape, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to hold it in place while I cut it so nothing slips. Then I'm going to cut the same distance outside of that line to make sure I have plenty and I don't cut it too short. And I'm just cutting through the plastic part and I'm cutting through the paper part, because I know exactly where I want the cat to be positioned, and this way I can get it centered right in the frame. Just like that. Okay. I'm just using my clear Elmer's school glue for this. You could use probably E6000. I don't know how it would do on the plastic, but the Elmer's glue works nicely. I did have to wait a good bit for it to dry, but that's okay, because when you're working on a bunch of projects at once, you've got time. Leave it alone and move on to something else, right? And this way you won't be able to see it on that plastic film. If it does, if you get a little too much or whatever, you won't be able to see it. I'm gently putting it down, tapping it in place with my fingers, and just slightly kind of pulling it to the side to make sure I don't have any wrinkles. Then I'm going to press it down. I don't want to have completely matte black on this or satin black. Got to bring some richness back into it. Y'all, I am so happy with all of the stories I got on my Halloween Familiars video. So many people have had black cats in their lives, and I heard so many cat names and about your childhood, and I love that. I hope we can keep doing that. It helps me get to know you, and that's special to me. So I want this to stand up, and I'm going to use these little Dollar Tree little blocks. You can get this in a pack in the Crafter Square. I just colored them with my Sharpie because, to be honest, I could not find my black furniture repair marker. So this was the next best thing. It was right there, and it does the same thing. Just makes a mess, kind of. I'm going to use hot glue to just attach that to the little parts there, and you won't be able to see it when it stands up. And look how nicely she stands. There she is, Miss. Okay, now here's the candle. So I'm going to turn it on, and you can see that it flickers. It's a little flameless candle, and it fits perfectly around that, doesn't it? It's going to look good together. I want to make it look a little richer, so I'm going to take some of this bronzy paint, and I'm going to be kind of dry brushing this. The little paintbrush is from Dollar Tree, and these are good. I can't recommend all paintbrushes, but for me, these work really good for this technique. I just started off by going over the rosebuds and the rose just to kind of see how much coverage I wanted. But then I decided to go ahead and there's little dots on the frame. I wanted to go ahead and go around all of those dots and just bring that out. Just really bring it out. I don't want to have completely matte black on this or satin black. Got to bring some richness back into it, right? We got all those beautiful colors and tones in the frame and in the owl, so we need it here too. And you see how that just highlighted all those high spots? Highlighted that. Looks so nice. And I think she's a cutie. And then here's our kitty cat, and she's lit up with the flameless candle. Super easy. This is a beginner crafter project. These are little thrifted, they're magnets actually. They're like a material, like a stuffed material and fabric. This is a little metal sign that came in a 3-pack from Dollar Tree, and I had spray painted it and used it on a project last year. This is a thrifted sign that I had hand lettered to use on my coffee bar, and I've used it for several years now, so it's time to give it new life. We're going to use it for something else. Just wipe all the dust away when you do that. Then I'm going to cut down some scrapbook paper. Use whatever you like. You can even use wrapping paper. I'm going to trim it down so that it fits inside of my frame. I think that the colors work well with this. A little bit of a glue stick, and that's going to hold it in place in that frame on that sign. Then I'm just going to take my little wallpaper tool here and just lay that down just like that, and then decide which one of these little fabric pieces I want to have in my frame. And I really like the cat and the full moon. That looks cute together. So a little hot glue quickly because this dries super fast, and just pop that on. If you want it to be permanent, you need to use something like E6000 or super glue or some type of epoxy to make yours stay down, because these will eventually pop off. Alright, and once that's down, I'm going to add a little bow. I'm just going to use some of the lighter orange and the black and just tie a really simple bow here. Just like that, and it's just a little double bow. And pull that out and fix it how you want it to look. It's very easy to work with this. And then decide where I want to put my little bow, and I think I'm going to make it look like a bow tie underneath my little pumpkin here. Close enough. And a little candy corn embellishment. How's that? Not bad at all. You can certainly do this.
Number 1, we have a black cat sign. We're going to start off with a little bit of ribbon. Whatever type you have is good. Doesn't have to be wired. We're going to use a glue stick or some adhesive spray. I have a Mod Podge little scraper and a utensil to cut. A block that was thrifted, believe it or not. And I'm just giving you a measurement here so you can get an idea. And this came off the back of a blanket I got at Walmart. It was on the packaging and I liked it, so I cut it out. Now I'm just going to clean up a little bit on the back. There was some sticker residue, so I wanted to get that off. Wipe it away and get all that off of there. Now it's nice and clean. And then you can just decide which side you want to go down. You can have your sign so that it will be reversible, or you can cover up the back side, whichever one you like. I'm going to trace it out on that cardboard paper there and just cut it out. I've decided to use my spray adhesive for this, so you need to cover your surface before you put it on. I've already done that. And then I'm just going to place down the paper. Once you put it on, it is there. You're not going to be able to move it. So if you're not sure of yourself, use a glue stick because you have a lot more time there to move things around. I'm just making sure everything is flat and that it is getting a good, nice adhesion there. And then I'm going to take my sander and go around the edges and just get off whatever is left. I've decided that I like the black and white ribbon as a trim to go around the block. Now, this ribbon is not quite wide enough, but we're going to fix that. You could always paint your edges first if you would like. But if you didn't do that, then I'm going to show you a way that you can do it. No problem. We're just going to go around with that pretty ribbon till we get back to the end and glue it down. Now if you have paint pens or furniture markers or a fine paintbrush and you feel comfortable with paint, you can certainly use that. But I'm taking my black furniture repair marker and just going to go around all of the edges on each side of the ribbon on all of the sides so that I have a nice finished look. And then you can barely even tell. Now this is a part of a tag that I got 100 years ago, both of the stickers as well, from when I was back in my scrapbooking days. I cannot tell you where I got those from, but you can pretty much find these types of tags anywhere. You can get things that are similar at Dollar Tree. And you can use any type of dimensional or flat sticker that you like. You could even hot glue some type of an embellishment if you would like. Just use your imagination here. I happen to like this little cat, so I'm gonna try to center him there and then press him down. You can always use a little hot glue if you want to make sure nothing falls apart, but this is staying here for me pretty nicely. This is the Black Cat pumpkin sign. Quite possibly the best, in my opinion, project I have done the entire Halloween series. We're going to start with this pumpkin from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a little bit of pumpkin orange Waverly chalk paint that came from Plaid. Thank you very much, Plaid. Then I have a little bit of this antiquing wax that I already had. I'm going to put a few drops in here because I want to muddy up this orange paint and give it a more realistic looking dirty pumpkin look. So when I get it the color I like, just like this, I'm going to start brushing it on there. It's just a more natural color, I think, than the one that was already on the pumpkin. And it's going to match the fabric that we're using much better. So 2 coats of that and let it dry. And then I'm going to take the medium size embroidery hoop and this beautiful cat fabric. I'm going to use this little kitty. There's a bunch of seams on here. It is wrinkled, but you can see in just a moment how to get the wrinkles out. Just like we said before, pull a little bit, press down, pull. Then you're going to tighten that screw up. We're going to cut it out. Same process. This is your 3rd one. You are professional at this right now, right? Professional. So you're going to go all the way around it. And you see it's going to eventually live in the middle of the pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and use a paint pen for this. I'm using this paint pen or paint marker to go around the edge of this because I have finally had to say goodbye to my black marker. I used all the ink out of my repair marker. Now go all the way around the edges, and you can either go around the edges with that, on the sides with that, or you can go use a little bit of paint. And I did use paint, but you won't see that on the camera. It's just a very dark, I think it's called pavement. Now I'm going to use a wet wipe. Use whatever brand, whatever kind you like. I mean, I think they all pretty much work the same way. I'm just using one I had. And you're going to put a little bit of wax on there, and we're going to make some curves. We're going to add dimension to this pumpkin because I don't want the cartoonish look that we had before. And you can see just by going over the curves, just by fanning it out on the ends and going around the edges, that pumpkin looks so much better. Oh yeah, I did paint that stem that brown also, I forgot. Okay, so to make a pick on the top, we're going to spray paint that little stem black. Here's my little finish centerpiece. While our pick is drying, we're going to embellish. A little bit of glue, we're going to put this down. You can glue this any way you want to. You can put it all the way around the rim, or you can just do a couple little dots like I did. Whatever you want to do. Then I have these. They were from way back in the scrapbook days. I'm surprised they still are sticky, but they are. You don't have to use stickers. If you don't have something like this, I chose this because it matches the print. You can see in the print over there behind the pumpkin that it has the kind of viney look. So that's why I chose it. But you can use a pen and freehand this. It's very easy to do this. Or, you know, you could possibly find these stickers. But I'm telling you, I've had them a long time. I love that you can add your own little pieces here to get your own little style. And that was really fun to me. And they're a little bit glittery, so that's nice. And I did go around with my paint pen and bump the edges intentionally to make it look a little more rustic, because there's like a little rustic look in the background of that cat fabric. So I did do that. Now after these are nice and dry, be sure they're dry, I'm just going to cut them off the big pick, and I'm going to crisscross them over in the middle. Just no particular way, just as long as there's equal amount each side. Another zip tie is how we're going to close it off. Going to seal these together nicely right in the center, and then clip off the excess. All right, so now I know I want to add some greenery to my little stem pieces here. And I had some of this black left from our witch projects, and I want to use those definitely on here. We're going to just crisscross the stems on the bottom. I pulled this off of a piece that came from a different project we did. And then I'm going to zip tie that together. So I've got the beautiful colors that coordinate with what's going on in our cat fabric. Love that. And I'm just going to spread those out a little bit. And I'm going to take some of the darker leaves that fell off of something else I had. See, I keep everything, which is a good thing and a bad thing. You know how it goes if you craft. Then you're just going to keep adding until you get it the way you want it to look in the middle. And then again with a big dollop of glue, I'm going to put this off to the side. I do not want to cover up my stem or anything else. We're going to let it dry completely. Then I'm going to take this little wooden spider. He's from a sticker from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add him right on the leaves in the top. And then you can use a hanger on the back. You can do this or hang it any way that you like to hang it. You can put Jenga blocks on the back and make it a stander if you want to. It could be a standing sign. The full moon tray sign. I hope y'all are getting lots of goodness out of this video, because I worked my tail off for days. Days, I tell you. But I love it. I love crafting. Okay, so we have a little piece of scrap foam. We have some fabric. We have that sign, which I got just for the moon. I'm going to pull that right off the top, save the other parts for another project. I've chosen this little kitty cat for the next sign, and he is proudly standing on top of the pumpkin. I'm going to call it a she. I'm getting she vibes from this pumpkin. I'm going to use some Mod Podge, and this is just matte Mod Podge. I'm going to put this down on my scrap piece of foam board, and then we're going to put that fabric right on top. Just press it out with your hands, and then you can roll it, or you can use your tools. This is my little Plaid sent the little tool to me, and I use it on some things. Then I'm going to go all over the top. I want this fabric to be stiff because we're going to cut this with a blade, and I want it to be nice and stiff. It's not really easy to get a precision cut, in my opinion, or in my experience, if you use scissors on foam board. Yeah. So we're going to take this tray that I've had forever and spray paint it with the matte paint. We're going to come over here to the cat, make it easier on ourselves by cutting off the excess and getting rid of it. cut off the bigger sections and then start doing your fussy cuts. And this is why I'm using the little blade here. You can go around the ears. And I won't bore you with the entire thing, but you can see how this works. That fabric is stiff now. Now I'm just going to use my scissors and cut off the back part of the white that's showing through, just trimming it a little. And I'm going to take the same black acrylic marker and I'm going to go all around my edges because I don't want that white. I don't want that to show on my sign, so I'm going to get rid of all of that. And I think even the black foam board has white on the inside, so yeah, that wouldn't have helped. So I'm going to put a little bit of paper on the back of that and glue it down, and then I'm going to fill in the hole with just a little bit of this lightweight spackling, also Dollar Tree. And I'm going to use my little silicone spatula to clean it up so it's flat in the front. After it is completely dry, we're going to start putting a little bit of paint to cover the hole up. I'm just going to use this yellow paint that I've already had and just kind of dot it over the top. And then I do go back with a white and clean up that orange edge so that it's nice and clean. Once the paint is dry, we can start assembling a little bit. So I am not sure where I got this little doily thing from. I have no idea, but I've had it forever in my Halloween stash because I use it underneath things, you know, to fancy it up. Just showing you the difference in the size of the Jenga blocks. The smaller one's from Dollar Tree and the larger one is from the thrift store, so I'm not sure where it came from originally. But I know it's an off-brand because it doesn't have the little Jenga imprint on it. So we're going to use that to give it some height and hold it up against off the tray. And we're going to do the same thing with the cat. All right, so we're going to put a little pocket on the bottom so that we have some way to hold some other goodies. So I'm going to use the rest of that scarf, and we have a project where I'm using a scarf. I had to cut it in half. So one scarf, two projects you're going to see shortly. And I'm just going to tie it on the side and then tack it with some glue here and there so that it doesn't slide on here. Now this is not actually going to hold all of what we put down, but it's going to hold everything in. It's going to contain it, in other words. And I'm going to move that little side over to cover up the bottom. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to. This is, you know, it's inspiration. All my videos are for inspiration. If you like it and want to do it exactly, you just go right on ahead and at least give me a shout out for it. But if not, do your own thing, you know. A couple of those blocks on the bottom will help me support the stuff that I'm packing in here. This is just some more shred. I'm going to shove it down in there. Decide where I want the cat and the moon to be. I'm going to use a little bit of the, I think that's E6000, the jewelry formula, but I think all of it works the same. The tip's just a little more narrow. And hot glue on each of those pieces and then place them down where I think they look nice. So the cat and the pumpkin are sitting in that black stuff. I'm going to add one of these little Dollar Tree witches hats. I think this was in a 3 or 4 pack. And I've had it since last year. Went ahead and used it. I'm trying to use some things up. I have some of these yellow and orange flowers that are from the thrift store. You can get very similar things right at Dollar Tree. So no worries about that. But I love the colors. I think they look really good with the yellow moon and the orange in the pumpkin and in the scarf. So I'm just going to tuck those around in the bottom. And then this is how that little sign will look. You can hang that by putting the same type of tie on the back or any type of hanger that...
The first is going to be our black cat wreath. We're going to need some pipe cleaners, some ornaments, whichever type that you like, whatever colors or type you like. I'm going to use one of these wreaths that I picked up. It's just a wire wreath form, and this is the 18-inch wreath form. I'll be using deco mesh. And these actually came from Dollar Tree, and they're not half bad. I have to say, they're not half bad as far as it goes. I'm going to need 3 rolls. This little decal that I got from the Dollar Tree, and this is a wall decal. Not Dollar Tree, Temu. I got it from Temu, y'all. Here she is. I'll have this linked below if you're interested. This is a little sticker that was on the plastic packaging.
I'll be using some orange ribbon. So we've got a little bit of shine in it and wired, of course. And then some black. This is like a black velvet and it is wired and it's larger than the other one. I'm also going to be using some yellow ribbon. So we're going to prep this wreath first, and I'm going to go around here with each of these pipe cleaners at each of these crossbars. I'm going to wrap it just a few times to make sure it stays in place. On the outside of this wreath, it happens to have the little overhangs instead of being flush, which is perfect for me because I can wrap it around so that it won't slide when we're putting it together. So it may be a flaw to some people, but it is perfect for what I like. This is very easy to do. Please do not be intimidated by deco mesh. I'm going to show you a very easy and full way to use your deco mesh. And at $1.25 a roll at Dollar Tree, you're going to get a lot of fullness for a small price. So give it a shot if you haven't used deco mesh yet. It's not that bad. Don't be intimidated. So we'll go all the way around. Then I'm going to go back on the inner two rings and wrap those as well. I'm just kind of eyeballing what the center would be between the little cross sections there. Very easy to do. You don't want to cut down your pipe cleaners because it gets really difficult when you're working with shorter pieces, so just go ahead and use the whole piece. I've tried before in the past when I was learning wreath making to cut corners and cut them shorter, but you really don't want to do that. You never know what you might want to add later, okay? So now if you want to count, I'm showing you the inner section and the outer section, and you can see how many you're going to need for this. I've got some clamps, and I'm going to start with this deco mesh. We're going to use 18-inch pieces. I happen to have a board that's exactly 18 inches. If it would have been wider, that would have been better. However, I have seen some people use cardboard for this, and it makes the cutting process a lot quicker. So you just start on the end, and then you're just going to wrap around and around. You don't want to do it too tight on the piece of wood. You want to have it just enough where you don't have it loose. Boy, that was not very specific, was it? You can see what I'm doing here. You pull it too tight, you might tear it, so you don't want that to happen. I'm going to go around and around until I'm all the way at the end of the roll, and you can see where it stops. I'll cut that off to get it out of my way. You can save that little spool for other projects if you would like, or you can throw it away or recycle, whatever. Then I'm going to go on the inside. I'm putting my hand in there on top of that board to hold it in place, to get my scissors in the right position, and then I'm just going to cut that right across, turn it around, and then I'll cut the other side. And this will give us 18-inch pieces to use on our wreath. And you can go ahead and do them all at one time to make it, easier for you if you want to. All right, so now we're going to make cruffles, or they're also referred to as woodland ruffles. I'm going to just use my scissors to hold it in place and show you. We're going to make just a couple of rolls and then walk your fingers up to the other side. I'm going to do mine with my hands, just roll it again on this side. And I have really small hands, but I can do this, y'all. So you can too, but I'm going to show you another way to do it in case you didn't get that, okay? Now, cute. I'll put a clamp in there, hold that in place, and we'll grab the next piece. We'll put that one down, put the scissors on there, lightly rolling it. We don't want to get it too tight because the bigger you roll it or the larger you allow your rolls, the fluffier it's going to be. Roll a little bit here, and by rolling the ends like this and then walking your fingers toward the other roll, it's going to grab all those little snag pieces that might be in there if you're not using a very good quality deco mesh, and you'll have nice clean edges. Sometimes you'll still get a couple of little pieces that stick out, and you can just clip those off with your scissors. If you've learned something in this video yet, if you're interested in anything that I do on my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe and be a part of our crafting family. Okay, so now I'm just going to do this next one. And we're going to use 2 at a time for these, okay? It's going to take 2 of these. So I'm going to take one out of the clip. I'm going to grab another one, take that one out of the clip, making sure the roll sides are upward. and put those together in an X right across the other one, just like that. You see how fluffy and pretty that bow is? You start wherever you would like on your wreath. You can start on the outside or the inside. I'm going to do this in a clockwise motion. I'm just going to get that twisted down to the wreath. Nice and full. Then we'll continue along and make the rest of them, or go ahead and do one at a time. You can see how I'm handling the clips while I'm doing this. Very pretty little ruffly bow situation. And so I went from the out, now we'll go to the in, and then the out, in and out, in and out, all the way around this wreath. This makes it easy, and it makes it where one layer is overlapping the other, and it seems to cover up most of the wire that is on the wreath. I hope that makes sense. So you want to continue around and finish that. Then I need to put this kitty cat on something. So I'm just going to put her on a piece of, this is like a piece of, it's not craft paper, like cardboard paper or like a poster board, but it's a smaller piece. Now I dropped mine down a little too soon, so I didn't get it in the right spot, and you just cannot pull it up when you put it on paper like this. So that's one thing, if you drop it, you just drop it. But don't worry, because I'm going to have a huge wrinkle in mine, but we're going to roll with it, all right? I encourage you to do the same thing. We shouldn't be too hard on ourselves, right? See, the hat is extended over the top, the little thing on the side, it is not centered. You will not know this at the end, though, I assure you. So I used my ruler to kind of just initially get it flattened out and get as many possible wrinkles or rolls out of it as I could. Then I'm going to go back over it with my little squeegee and put the rest down. Y'all, I want you to check out the description box below and come and meet us on the Crafty Cruise Getaway. It is next February, and we are very excited to meet you. But if you're not able or you don't do cruises, I got another surprise for you a little bit later in the video, so stick around. Okay, so I have right here a line, a little crease that popped up in there. You see it? Ugh, annoying, right? It's annoying when we do something like that. But we're going to make this so pretty, and she's going to be kind of recessed in the wreath. You're barely going to notice this. And if you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't matter, right? I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to scrap my whole project. Okay, so these are ornaments that I chose. I wanted to use black. I just wanted to continue around and use black, because some people don't want to do a lot of different colors for their decorating. So we'll just go with this. Now these ornaments I happen to have thrifted. There are several different, I guess, paint finishes on them. I'm going to cut these pipe cleaners in half because we don't need the whole one, so we can save. So there are as many ornaments as you want to use. That's how many little pipe cleaners you're going to need here, obviously. This is how we're going to attach it to the wreath form. I want enough to go outside of every of the intersection pieces we had. So if we had 8 in the middle or 10 in the middle, then we would need 8 or 10 ornaments. So we're looking at the outside of the wreath. On the intersection, that's where we're going to put it. So we're going to take it and put it right between the 2 outside ones, right snugged up next to the one on the inner. I hope that made sense. It probably won't. When I go back to edit, it's probably not going to make sense, but I hope you know what I mean. Watch what I do. How about that? So you can see where this one is. It's going to be right behind the one on the inner ring. And I'm alternating the patterns in these ornaments that I have too. Some have a little glitter, some are more matte, some have swirls. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to do this all the way around the wreath. Now, if you have ornaments whose tops like to pop off, just use a little hot glue to hold those in place. So you see the pattern here. You can see how we're going. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. All right, now we're going to work on the next part of the wreath embellishment. I'm going to roll out a little bit of this black ribbon, then the orange right on top of it. I'm going to leave these both on the roll while we start to wrap this around the wreath. So we're going to put this kind of floating on top of all of these little poofs of cruffles. I'm going to grab up 1.5 inches, 2 inches here to put down on the wreath form. I'm just going to start mine in the middle, which is right in front of one of these ornaments. I'm going to twist it in there real tight. I'll keep that orange on the top and continue around here, right on the top. And rather than measuring this, I am going to use just kind of the idea of it floating above each of the little hoofs that we have. So it's sitting right above, and you can do that by feeling it and kind of looking at it. You don't want to pull it so tight that it's crushing anything. We want a lot of dimension in the wreath and to have it very fluffy. Really want it to make an impact when you have it either on your storm door or you have it in your house. You could even do something like this. You know, unfortunately, people get sick all times of the year. Can you imagine somebody being sick and in the hospital on Halloween if they really love that holiday? This would be so nice to give somebody, you know, for them to put on their door or on their wall to bring them a little bit of happiness and festivity of the holiday, right? I think it would. I know I would love something like that. And the thought of it. It's the thought, right? The thought counts. Maybe a little bag of candy too. Hey, I want to say thank you to you for being here today. If you were recommended by YouTube to come over to my channel, if I happen to be attached to a playlist somewhere, or if somebody recommended me or shared my video, I am glad to have you here, and you are most welcome here on my channel. I want to do budget-friendly, encouraging videos for y'all so that you can have wonderful home decor without having to spend a lot of money. And I want you to have the patience and the belief in yourself that you can do it. Because you can. You can if I can, right? You definitely can. You got this. Now we're all the way back around, and I'm going to put it right back in the original spot, and then I can trim that off. Now if you want to tuck those ends into your wreath, you can do that. I'm just going to leave mine out. And I'm going to go through and remove all the rest of the pipe cleaners because I won't be needing those anymore in this piece. This is what it looks like so far. I'm going to turn this so that those little ends are at the top, and I'll start moving around my 2 rows of ribbon. I'm going to pull the black and then the orange, and then go down to the next little piece, and I will do orange and then black. Just pulling the little poof out, black and orange, orange and black. So it's kind of going back and forth like it's woven through this entire wreath. I like that look. I do. You can make a bow at this point if you want to add a bow on here. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll grab the same ribbons that we already used. I'm just going to fold this over. We're going to do a very, very simple bow on this. Okay, now I'm going to grab my ruler so you can see my measurement here, and what looks like we're at about 9 inches. So this is rolled over on itself, 9 inches, rolled again. We're going to trim that off. It does have wire in it, so it's going to sit there nice and flat until we're ready to do the next one. I want this one to be about 1 inch smaller, so this one is going to be about 8 inches. Then I'm going to fold it again. And then I'll cut it off. Now, the more folds you put, the more loops you're going to have. I want mine to be very simple, almost like a bow tie. I've got some orange twine that I'm going to use. You can use baker's twine, you can use pipe cleaner, you can use another piece of ribbon. I actually do a little something extra to this in just a moment, but I wanted something strong to hold it first because this is pretty thick. This velvet type ribbon is pretty thick. I'm going to squish it up toward the center and hold it, and I'm going to tie it off good and tight right in the middle, and I fold it to make sure that it is the same length on both sides, in case you're wondering why I did that fold. That's why I do that. Make sure my measurements are right. And you can cut those off, so you don't need those tails on there. Hey, come check out my new videos on Mondays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. I'll see you in the comments. If you want to leave these little tails on here, you can leave them on to become part of your bow, or you can pull the little parts out and cut them off short so that you don't see them at all. That is completely for your choice. Then you can fluff it out and get an idea how it's going to look. You can see if you want to keep those as part of the bow, you can just pull those down. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then if you want to go across the middle of it, which I decided to do, I'm going to fold this in thirds. You can see what I'm doing. Very easy to do. Then I'm going to wrap it around the middle. And I will tie this in a double knot and trim it off. Easy peasy. And I do like that, so then since I already have one knot, I'll go ahead and tie the other knot in it. Make sure it stays that way. Do like this. I think it's going to be cute with this type of wreath. And you got a lot of options of where you can put the bow on your wreath as well. Fluff it out. That's the beauty of having ribbon in a bow. It holds its form when you fluff it. So here's our kitty on that paper, and we need to decide if we want to leave her just like this in the back. I would like the idea of kind of blending those edges out on that white paper so that you don't see it when you put it up against that wreath. The white you can see a little bit through that mesh, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to use the black here. Now you don't want to start off putting it on black cardstock because it's going to make the lightness that's in the hat and in the little kitty's face, all those little finer details will be completely, they'll disappear into the black. So you don't want that to happen, but putting it on the white paper and just kind of going over the outside, making like a cameo and kind of blending it out, then you'll still see the crispness of the color on the cat. And we want to maintain that, right? This little cat is a beauty. She's so cute. Look at her little hat with the bow on it, just precious. Okay, so I'm rounding out the edges here. And because I didn't get it exactly centered, you know, it looks a little different on the other side. You're not going to see it once it's in the wreath, so we won't dwell. We're not going to dwell, are we? Now you can bring the color toward the inside a little bit with that brush if you want to, without adding any extra to the foam brush. And then just taking a dry, like a little stencil brush, I'm just going back over everything and kind of, you know, tapping it around to make sure everything's got a nice little silhouette. I'm going to put this on top of a piece of cardboard to really help me get it attached to the wreath. And it works great. So you use any technique you want to use, but this worked for me. So I wanted to share it with you because we want to learn all kinds of different ways to do things, right? You never know what kind of distress you might run into when you're crafting. Okay, so she's all glued down. We're going to flip that wreath over, keeping our top toward the top. And then if you lay this down on here, of course you want your paint to be dry. You can take some wire, like I'm using some floral wire, and I'm just going to cut 4 pieces, and this will be one for each corner of that cardboard there. Cut it and cut it. And I'm going to poke it through and then go on the outer ring of that wreath. Just grab it and then just twist it around. You don't want to pull it, I mean, make it snug, but don't pull it too tight because you could tear your cardboard. I mean, it's just cardboard, right? Do the same thing here. And don't worry, you're not going to see the edges or anything underneath there. It's all going to blend in together and you won't have a problem. But again, I want you to make it your own. Do this however you would prefer, and I've put things in the center of wreaths in about a million different ways. So when you go and look at my other wreath videos, you're going to see other options. I don't want there to be any reason people can't craft, right? Now look at the difference that makes. Yes, I like that very much. So you could see that little bow could go on the bottom. The bow could go on her hat. Had I made it smaller, I think it would be really cute on her hat. But it's just way too big like that. So I decided I was going to just glue it right onto the top. I'm not even going to wire it in because I don't want to pull it down. I want it to keep that nice flat bow tie look and just let it float right on top of those little ribbon streamers, if you will. And fix the bow, of course. You know, if you're one of the people who has the patience, And the discipline to wait to the last minute to fluff your bow, more power to you. But I'm fluffing the whole time that I have the ribbon in my hand. That's just how I do it, y'all. I love her. She's so cute. And feel free to add some lights if you would like. Whatever you need to do to make it your own. And I have her hung here so you can see. It's a little bit of glare from my overhead light on the kitty, but you can barely even notice that there's a line running across, don't you think? It's not that noticeable. And if you take the time and the patience and you're just extra careful, you probably won't make that mistake. Halloween swag is the next one. Y'all remember the little sticks that you can get from Dollar Tree? These are extras that I pulled off from last year. I'm recycling, y'all. I've got some deco mesh that I found at the thrift store. Again, don't be afraid. This is really good mesh, by the way. More pipe cleaners. We're going to have options. Any types of little poofs, pom-poms, little round wicker things that you can embellish with. I'm going to use some of this ribbon. This is from a Dollar Tree yard sign. I saved these because we're going to make the sign. We're going to make the swag out of it, rather. Be sure you take the little staples out of here before you start because you don't want to get anything stuck in your fingers. You can feel them. When you peel off the pieces, you can definitely feel the little nail pieces sticking out. So just grab your little wire cutters or whatever you've got and just pull those out, or get a hammer and just hammer them in. I'm going to start at the top and at the bottom at about 2 inches from the top, 2 inches from the bottom. That's approximate. You can see what I'm doing. And then in the middle of each of those sections, I will put one. I'm not using a ruler here. You won't notice. You're not going to notice. So now we have 5 of these little sections. And I'll get out this deco mesh. I love this deco mesh. Very pretty. This is like a 10-inch, I do believe, and we're going to be cutting 18-inch pieces of this. Now, because this is so wide, I didn't use my board to cut this one. I just went ahead and measured it off. And you don't have to cut a whole lot for this one. You're only going to need 10 of the 18-inch pieces. All right. So look how that just rolls so clean and crisp. I'm going to use the fact that this is striped to my advantage and walk my fingers right up one of those stripes. Helps me keep that bow perfectly in order. And then I'll roll this section and put them together. Now you can see a lot better on this bigger mesh and on this color the way that this cruffle is going to look. You can do the same thing again. By all means, if you like yours to be a lot more thick and bouncy and you don't have to worry about closing a door on it, then you can make it longer. Use 2 feet of it if you want to. Totally up to you. This works for me, and I think the dimension of this on this swag is going to work. So now we've got the 2 crossed over, just like in the wreath. Y'all can do this, right? You can do this. Practice makes perfect. Now I'm going to put it down right in the middle. I'm going to give it a good twist, or 2 or 3. And then I'll go on to the next one. Roll and roll, walk your fingers up. Then you can roll the next section, and you can use your scissors like we did before. Just lay your scissors on there, or you can use a clip to hold each side until you get them put together. So here's the next one, crossed over. I'm going to add that down. Go right in the middle of that crossed over section and give that a few twists to hold it in place. Here's the next one. You feeling confident right now? Are you feeling confident? Use whatever colors that you like. And if you don't do Halloween, you could do something like this for fall. Just grab the inspiration and run with it. So now we've got 3 sections down, 2 more to go. Now we're going to start with our ribbon stacks, and we are going to do 12-inch cuts of each of these ribbons. This is like a deco mesh ribbon. It's really weird, but it works. It works for this. Got a lot of body into it. Then this is the yellow ribbon I had mentioned before. And then here is a orange polka dot ribbon. And I realize I didn't even show y'all this, but you know, this is what we're using. Now these are our 12-inch pieces. I'm going to take each one of these pieces and I am going to dovetail the ends. You can dovetail, you can cut them at a slant. They all have wire in them. And that piece in the middle is like a sheer piece with Swiss dots on it. Very pretty, and I found 3 rolls of that at the thrift store. I was so excited. Anytime I find anything fall or Halloween, I get excited. So all of it is dovetailed. I am showing you that you want to use the shape of that deco mesh underneath to help you keep the shape of this little ribbon fluff. So you can flip all the ribbons over where they are flexing upward and outward, if you're able to do that. You can see how I stacked one and then X over it. Walk your fingers toward the middle. You can flex that little piece out. And then add that to your cruffle stacks. I'm pushing it down in there. You can see how thick this is already and how full this is already. Couple of twists to hold that in place. Then you can kind of flex that out because, like I said, you got wire in there. It's going to help hold its body. And we can cut off the excess. Not going to need any more for the way that we're doing this one. Same thing. We're going to use the black on the bottom, the yellow on top, and the orange in the middle. Grab it in the middle of that X. Walk your fingers together. And I'm kind of pinching it and holding it pinched. And then I'll put it right down in the middle of the next stack of cruffles. Twisting it tightly. I like the colors of this. I had originally thought about using a different sign, but I just could not get it pleasing to my eye. I just did not like it. So changed it. And I'm glad I did, because as I did it, I immediately knew it was the better choice. Some things just don't sit well with me. Oh, by the way, I want to say thank you to a couple of people. I have gotten super thanks. I have gotten coffees for Buy Me a Coffee. I have gotten huge packages of things in the mail, and I am so very grateful. The fact that you even think of me to do these types of things means the world. And to get rid of a little confusion, to subscribe to my channel, it is free. If you want to be a member and you see the little button that says join, that's for channel memberships. That is not for subscribing to the channel. You just hit subscribe to subscribe to the channel, okay? I don't want anybody to think that I'm expecting them to spend any money. Anything you do is appreciated, but never expected, okay? Now, good. I'm glad we got that all cleared up. Now I'm going to take some of these little rattan balls. I got these from Temu, and I am going to just put some sticks in there and then use those in the sides. I'm liking that it looks a little candy cornish, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to use these little balls here. They didn't have any black, so I just went with what we had, right? But don't worry, because the cat sign and the witch legs are black, so we're going to have some more of that black in there. You could glue it straight onto your ribbons, but it's going to pull your ribbons down, and that's why I chose to use a little craft sticks for this. They're actually coffee stir sticks, but they work great for crafting too. All right, so now I want to put a bow on the top, so I am going to be cutting this off, and this is about probably 30 inches of ribbon. We're going to do about 30 inches of the black, 30 inches of the orange, and 30 inches of the yellow. Now we will be cutting it down, so it's not going to be as long. We're going to, cut it down a little bit. We're going to cross it over. We're going to squish that middle section down into the tail section, and that is going to give you a very simple little bow. I'm checking the size of it to make sure it's going to work, and it does. So then I'm going to put a clamp on there. Just clip it off while we work on the next sections. I'll grab the yellow, and on one side of the yellow it's got dots, and the other side has little lines on it. I don't know. It's pretty neat. I don't even know which is the correct side, but we're going to go with it. We're going to go with it, and I did it all over this wreath to make it, well, not the wreath, the swag. To just enjoy that. We get two looks in one, right? Now here we are with the orange. I'm going to cross that over. It looks like an awareness tag, doesn't it? You can see it really well with this. Then I'm going to grab it where it crosses over, push that rounded top straight into it, walk my fingers together just by pinching it. And now we have this little section of bow. You can determine the lengths of your bow however you want to, as big as you want it, as small as you want it. Totally up to you. You can use a different type of bow, or you can go without a bow. But I have found on this type of a swag, a bow on the top really gives it a nice presentation. I was trying to decide which section was the front and which one was the back. So I'm taking the clip off now. I've got it all in my hands. Nice. Then you can get a pipe cleaner or a piece of floral wire, which is what I'm using. I'm going to, you can see I'm still holding everything in place, getting that out of the way. Then I'm going to pull that together, squeezing it tight and twist it. Twist, twist, twist the bow. It's easier than twisting the wire. Then you can start to fluff that bow out, and you can attach it down to the top. And you can see the original hanger is still there, and we're going to leave it just like that. All right, so now I already had some hangers on the back of my black cat, and we're just going to use it again since we're recycling that cat. And I'm going to do something with the witch's feet here. I'm going to grab my glue gun, and I'm going to cross those little legs so it just looks like she's got her feet just kind of kicked out there. I'm going to use my clamp until the glue is set, and I will attach down the cat right onto the two sections right there in the middle. So we went down, the first one has the bow, and the second two sections are going to be where we attach the cat. I'm just going to attach it underneath to the stick, make sure nothing falls around. And you can see here where I've added all those little balls in there, made it nice and festive. Then I'm going to decide where I want to put these boots. And then once I decide where I want them, I'm going to attach with hot glue. You can also use wire here, or stapler possibly. Then I'm going to fluff everything back out to make sure it is beautifully in place. And I think this is a cute one. It's a little different, but hey, the cat's got her witch's hat on, and she's got her witch's boots on, and she is wearing her fancy bows and bobs. I just think it's fun. I think it's a fun little thing. It's different, and it's going to look so cute in a narrow space or door. Subscribe to this channel if you have enjoyed what we've been doing today. I'm so happy to have every one of you here. I always enjoy it when you drop by and spend your precious time with me. It really means a lot to me.
We have a cat hanging sign. Another fun cat. I'm going to use some black spray paint, some little spider rings, a little strip of, I don't know what this is, but it's a ribbon that's got, looks like fur on it, and a thrifted cat head. And this is a wooden cat. So I'm going to spray paint, and then this is how she's going to look. I'm going to protect my fingers because we're going to be gluing this little furry looking fringe all over the border of this cat. I'm just going to go along the outside to do it. Adding some hot glue. You might want to have cool temperature glue here, or protect all your fingertips, because for some odd reason I like to put my fingers down that are not protected. I don't know why I do that. Okay, so now I'm going to continue around, just adding the glue and then pulling and laying down this trim. It fits nicely on the edge of the sign, so this was actually a pretty quick process, just making sure that I was careful not to burn myself. Now every time y'all watch my videos, you're going to be watching me put the wrong finger down in the glue, aren't you? That's okay. When I edit my videos, I wonder sometimes what in the world I was thinking. So I'm going to continue around and just add it and then pat it down in there. Look how cute she is. I cut the ring and the legs off the spiders, And I'm going to add those to the center of the eye. And since the little cat eyes are kind of oval, I just put them at this angle instead of doing them straight up and down. So it matches the shape of the eye in general. Oh, I like that. That is cute. We had the purple rings and the orange, but I think the orange are just the perfect ones. I have some yarn from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to use that as a cord. I thought it fitting because it's kind of fuzzy. And I'm going to tie double knots in each end to use as a hanger. Just sliding one knot on top of the other knot to make it bigger, so we have a bigger surface area to apply the glue. And then right on the inside area of the ear where the head connects, I'm just going to add some hot glue and press it down into there. It's very fibrous, so it really clings to that quite well. And then I can trim off the excess because we don't need that. It'll make it look nice and neat. Now I'm going to make a bow with pipe cleaners. I've never done this before, but I love the pattern and I wanted to use it. So just check out how I do it. This is going to be so easy, and I'll be doing this lots more. So you see I made that little loop there, and then I just took the back leg and wrapped it around the middle. Let's do that again. We're going to make the little awareness shape, press it down in the middle. Now it looks like a bow, but it's still loose. See how it's loose? We're going to grab it, wrap that leg around the middle, and now we have a bow. I love it. I love that. I love it. I hope this is helpful to you and that you'll be able to do these little bows now too. So maybe if you're out of ribbon but you really have some pipe cleaners that are gorgeous, go ahead and use them. Gives really interesting look and texture to the project. We're going to put this bow down on the bottom, but you can put it wherever you want if you happen to be doing a project that is similar to this. I'm going to place one on top of the other, and it almost looks like a little 4-leaf clover. You can just use your wire cutters to trim it instead of using scissors on ribbon. So you can adjust things just like with ribbon. Then I'm going to glue my little bow down there toward the bottom of the kitty. Oh, she's a little stinker. Look at that face. I hope you like this kitty cat sign. Is a black cat sign. We are going to be using Dollar Tree items. We're going to start off with this little sign that I found. These are thrifted. But you can see the prices. Maybe you can see where it comes from. There are 2 of these, and I'm going to use one on each project. I'm just going to start off with some black chalkboard paint and put that down, and then go over all of that writing. I tried to erase that off of there and it won't come off, so it must have been permanent. Easy to fix. Alright, so we're going to take this sign apart because we're going to use this one sign for 2 different projects. Just pull the ribbon off the back. If you pull carefully, it'll loosen up those staples. You can take those right out and throw them into the trash. Save your ribbon. We'll use it again. And then you can save your little pumpkin. We're going to use this yard pick, and it is a black cat with a witch hat. Love it. And just going to turn it over and then press down and pull the stake off. You can save the stake because you can use it on other projects, and we will be doing that in another video. This is a thrifted headband that I found. Looks like a little girl's headband, and it very easily will pull right off the backing. And I love these. This little floret shape, or whatever you want to call it, pinwheel, is perfect for vintage DIYs. And I like the colors. Cute. Alright, so for the first project, we're going to use the oval sign. And I'm going to just see how I want this to look. I've moved these around a little bit. I'm sparing you because the video can be quite long if I show you all of it. But you can kind of play around with it and see how you would like for your layout to be. Since the center of this sign is depressed, I'm going to use these little tower blocks, tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree. I use them on a lot of projects for the same thing, just as like little risers or spacers. I'm going to put it on the back and use it to hold it up off of the sign. I love using signs that have some depth in them because it gives a lot of shadows, it gives a lot of dimension, it gives interest, and it also allows you the space to add in lights if you choose to do that, or add picks or anything else that you want to use. So before I glue them down to the backing, I just want to go ahead and get these little pieces on here, their supports if you will, so that I can place them down. And I do like the way that this looks, and this is going to fit nicely. So in order to mark my space where I don't forget where I'm gluing, where I need to put the glue, I'm just going to use some more of these blocks, and I'm going to go right in between with my glue. Now if you have a flat oval sign, which you can get similar to that, at Dollar Tree, if you have something flat, you don't have to worry about using the Jenga blocks to raise anything up unless you just want to, and that would give you some dimension there as well. Then you can add everything in how you like it. I'm just kind of making sure that the top and bottom sign have about the same amount of space, but you could use your blocks there too as little spacers. And then the same thing with the cat. I don't want a bunch of extra glue all over the place, because sometimes when you peel the glue off of a painted surface, it'll take your paint off. So I don't want that to happen. And so doing it this way is going to help me a little kind of gauge where I need the glue and where I most definitely do not need the glue. Now this little cat is going to overlap slightly onto the spooky sign, which I do not mind. I like it. We're going to go with it. It's all layered and pretty. And then on the top where the hole is, I'm just going to add one of these little pinwheels or rosettes, whatever you want to call them, right to the top. It has a little rhinestone in the middle. So over here on this spider, I'm going to use a white paint pen and cover up all of the legs. You could cover your entire spider if you wanted to. And I'm going to put down a spider ring that came from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut the ring part off. You can see it over there to the right. And it will be perfectly ready. I love it! Isn't that so much better? Again, that's going to give it some more interest, some more dimension, and the sparkle from the little orange stone, it's kind of carried over from the sparkle and the rhinestone. Yes, you could stop right here if you would like, but I'm going to add a little extra something to my sign, so I'm going to show you how you can add some extra. I'm just using some scrap ribbons that I have. Some are wired, some are not. And I am going to make a little bow to go on the top. And so I've decided that yes, this is going to be the right length. That's kind of what I was doing, trying to decide about the lengths. You can dovetail your ends on your ribbons. And then the thinner ribbons I usually just cut at a slant, and you'll see that here. I'm just going at a slant to put those down. I'm going to add this piece, which I just cut in half because it was a little bit bigger than the other ones, and dovetail that. Use any colors that you like. They can match or clash or complement or whatever you like. Just do what you like. Remember, the floppy bows need to go on top, or the floppy pieces need to go on top, so that there's some structure from below, which are the pieces that have the wire. That makes sense, kind of holds it up. And then we're going to use that same piece of black ribbon we already had that we took off of our sign, and we're just going to tie these right in the middle. A couple of knots right in the center, and you can take your time with this. You don't have to get in a hurry. When they flip over, don't worry, you can push them right back down like I do. A couple of double knots, triple knot, whatever you're comfortable with, and then you can cut it a little long so that that black piece will be now part of your bow. I love these types of bows in fall and Halloween decor. I just think that they're really pretty and they're festive. Okay, so you could put this on the side of the cat, or you could put it in the center and just kind of tuck it around your sign pieces. And that's what I decided to do. You can use a clamp to hold it in place while you move on to another part of your project. You know, you want to be efficient with your crafting so you can get it all done. We all don't have a lot of time to craft all day, do we? This is my job, and that's why I can sit here and do it, but for those of you who have jobs outside of your home, or you have children, or you're taking care of your elderly parents, or you have, you know, disabilities of any type, you need to kind of get it done a little bit quicker, a little more efficiently. So you can see here what I've done. I'm just trying to kind of make this almost look like a little feather or embellishment on the side. We're just using like the tails. We're not actually putting a bow here. I've just made a V in the center and then overlapped it and glued it down to itself. You can see on this little orange ribbon. And I'm going to put it down just like this. I love the little pizzazz it gives. And then I thought, hey, let's just go ahead and use a little scrap and cut this in like a V. So I have a V in this little piece, and I'm going to put it right on top. And that looks really cute. I like that. It's a different kind of layered look, but it's cute. Then you can fluff around. You can tuck your bow ends under. You can curl them over. You can wrap, you know, kind of bend them around your fingers so they have a little bit of a curl in it. And at this point, it's a good time to trim up anything that you see that you would like to be trimmed. My little ribbon was fraying just a little bit, so I just went ahead and trimmed it up, make it look nice and neat. And then those other pieces, you can trim those down. It's best to start off with the same length, and then you can just change it up. You can trim it, but you can't add it back, can you? Very nice. So be sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. All right, the first is going to be a cat swag. I'm going to use this sign from Dollar Tree. They've had this sign out for a few years now. I'm going to use some ribbon from Hobby Lobby and from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use some spider pins. I'm going to use some of these ornaments from Dollar Tree. Two of the trees from Dollar Tree. They're just the black and orange, but you can use whatever you find. I'm going to use 2 rolls of this mesh. We will start by taking the bottom of the stand off of the tree because we won't need it. Take both of those out of the box. You can see one of them looks like somebody already opened it. It was torn, looked kind of sad, but I picked it up anyway because I had the worst time trying to find these things last year. All right, so I'm going to lay it down flat and then pull all of the little branches out to the side. When you pull them up, you can tell where they connect to the hole in the middle, and just pull those right out to the side. Everything needs to be nice and flat. You don't want any hiding underneath that tree trunk or the pole that is in the middle. So just pull them all out to the side. And then there's this one long one down here on the end that it really can't support anything as a tree, but we're going to leave it on there because we can use it. You see how it's nice and flat on both sides. We're going to do the same thing to the other tree, and then we're going to stack them on top of each other, one about 5 inches lower than the first one. And then you're going to make sure that you get all those little branches pulled out. Get your zip ties. You can use floral wire if you don't have zip ties. There's lots of options for placing things down when you're making wreaths and swags. So you could do pipe cleaners, you could use floral wire, you can use jute cord if that's what you have. Just depends on how determined you are to get this done. Then I'm just going to cut the excess off, and I like to do this in 2 different places. If you put it in a spot where there are branches above and below the zip tie, that's going to keep it from sliding out, and it'll really lock it into place for you. Just trimming this off. You can use some heavy-duty scissors or kitchen scissors to cut that off too. And then I'm going to just shape it just a little bit so I have access to all those little branches, because we're going to be adding some things on top of it. And I have found that just doing this first step helps me when I'm placing everything down to make sure that it is symmetrical and that everything, you know, there's no areas that are thicker than others and there's bald spots in your arrangements. So this is just my way of doing it. And if the branches are longer, just push them downward like a teardrop shape. So you're going to have about 18 inches to the pole and then another 5 inches to the very tip. If you don't like the tip hanging down, just fold that back up and you're fine. All right, we're going to start off by taking the mesh out. And I have 2 rolls of this. You can use whatever color you want depending on what you're using. I'm going to stack them on top of one another just to make the cutting a little bit easier. And this is a 18-inch or 1.5 foot ruler, and I'm just going to do a 1.5 foot. I didn't use my cutting mat because, you know, some people might not have one, but you can use a ruler and do the same thing. It takes a little bit longer to do it with scissors, but you can certainly do it. So this is how you're going to do it that way. Now you are going to need 18 18-inch pieces of this mesh, and you're going to assemble them like so. We're going to make cruffles or woodland ruffles, whatever you want to call it. This is what we're making. And I know some of y'all hate mesh, but look, you can work with it, and it makes a great base for your swags and wreaths. So we'll fold it over, walk it toward the middle, fold the other end to the inside, and now you have a little ruffle. And if you have any ends that are coming unraveled, just pull that off. They'll come off one at a time. Just pull it off to neaten it up. I'll show you again. Just going to roll it. It's about the probably the diameter of a quarter if you want to try to be more specific. Walk your little fingers up there and then flip the other end, roll that other end, and then push it toward the center. And this is what it looks like. This is a really nice technique to use if you use 10-inch mesh. It just really takes up a lot of space and makes a very full wreath or swag. So I'm going to use zip ties this time because I don't think I've shown y'all this, but feel free to use pipe cleaners. If you're a beginner or you're just trying to get the hang of this, don't use a zip tie. You're going to be so much happier, and it's going to be so much easier for you to just use pipe cleaners, okay? So I've put it on the top part because the widest part is going to be the top of our swag. This is, I guess, what's referred to as a teardrop swag. Walking my fingers up again, folding the edge, just kind of rolling it, and then making the little ruffle. And then we'll stack one on top of the other. Little clamps will help also to hold things in place while you work on the next one. I always use my little clamps when doing this type of a technique. I love them. I got 2 packs of these clamps and I got them at Dollar Tree. So look in the Crafter's Square. These are very helpful and worth your $1.25. Now you're going to cross them over just like an X. Hold it onto the outside of the swag. We want them on the outside, so the end of one of the branches up high. I'm going to wrap that zip tie around there, or just go ahead and use a pipe cleaner and just wrap it around the front, twist it off in the back, and trim it down. Very easy to do. I've got so many of these zip ties, it's just time to use them. And I need to practice and show y'all different ways of doing things, okay? Because I don't want anybody to have any excuse to not craft. When you're in the mood, you have got to be ready to do it. Not everybody has time to just do this all day, right? Well, I do because it's my job, but you know what I mean. When you got a spare moment in your busy life and you want to do something, you want to make it as easy on yourself as you can. So I'm going to go all the way down. I have 4 on each side and then 1 at the bottom. So that is a total of 9. And that's why we needed 2 of these little cruffles for each little section. All right, so then I'm just going to make sure that the shape is like I like it. We're going to leave that top part open. In the middle section, you don't have to be concerned with putting anything there unless you want to, because that's where we're going to put this little cat. So I'm just going to disassemble this. I'm just breaking this off because I know how to hold it without breaking both pieces, but use some type of a knife or a putty knife or something to kind of slip underneath there. You see how I'm doing it here on the back of the cat head? That way you don't accidentally break this, because it is not wood. It's like a pressed board or MDF, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to take off my sticker. No mini pearl in it today. And make sure that I get my little rough spots off. Now I'm going to go around the edge of this. I do this with all of these boards. I'm going to go around the edge. You can choose black, you can use antiquing wax, you can use dark brown, whatever you want to use. But it just looks better to me. And it kind of conceals the fact that it is something that you got from Dollar Tree. It just sharpens up the look of it. It makes it look a little bit better. And you know you always want your things to look more of a high-end look, right? No use screaming out in the middle of the parking lot that, hey, this came from Dollar Tree. Look what I got at Dollar Tree. Especially y'all, if this is something that you're going to try to sell, you really want to give your customer something that is worth your time making it, right? You want to show them that you really value them as a customer and you really value your work. All right, along the same lines of that, we are going to just spruce this hat up a little bit. Certainly not something you have to do, but I had some of this and I had thrown it into my donate pile, and then I thought when I got this cat, wait a minute, we can use this to spruce this hat up. So it almost in the beginning looked like he had a little party hat on, but it is actually a witch's hat. So to really bring out that shape, I'm going to go around here, all the way around the hat. Now you could see what I was doing just a moment ago. Put your finger protectors on if you're using hot glue. If you're using cool temp glue, or you wait a few seconds for the glue to dry, you can twist that with the twirl of the little trim or rope there, and it will make a little point on the end so that it's not frayed out. It just gives it a better look. Okay, so maybe that's something you could do to make it a little bit easier. If you're going to be using something like maybe some baker's twine in an orange and white, that would be cute here. I just like the idea of this being slightly, not glittery, but kind of shiny, or almost like a little metallic fleck in it. And y'all, I thrifted this, so I don't know where you can get this from, but pretty much any place where you get regular Halloween DIY things, you can find some colored cording to use. You could also use jute for this if you wanted, or some orange jute or some black jute, whatever you like. But I think this is cute, and it looks like a circus type print, and I don't know, I think about vintage and sometimes circus comes to mind, right? So I'm just going to cut this off. Got it all trimmed out there, and if it bothers you that that little white line is there, go over it with some black and you're fine. I'm just going to leave it there. So to attach this onto our swag, we're going to use some pipe cleaners. I'm using black because it will just kind of blend away and you won't see it there in the swag once we get it assembled. Just using a little bit of glue, place the pipe cleaner down in it, a little string of glue across the top, and then a piece of paper just locks everything into place. It's going to hold it in there so you don't accidentally pop off your pipe cleaners when you were twisting those onto the main branch or the main pole in the middle. Okay? All right, so we're going to let that dry and cool, and we're going to move on to adding some little pieces of ribbon onto the stacks. All right, we're going to go to 9 inches, and we are going to do 18 pieces of the black and white, and you're going to need more than one roll of that black and white, or whatever print you choose. And then we're going to use 9 pieces of the orange, or whatever print you choose. I'm using 2 different sizes. Both of these are wired. I am going to cut upwards here to make a dovetail. This is very easy to do. I'm just lining it up and then cutting it so that there's a V in the top and a V in the bottom. And then we'll do the same thing over here, V in the top and V in the bottom. You can also do yours at a slant, whatever you like. This just kind of keeps it from, if you have a type of fabric that's going to unravel, it's less likely to do it if you cut them like this. All right, so to assemble, I am going to put an X and then one right down the middle. I'm going to put the prints in the back and a smaller ribbon on top. I'm going to kind of squish it and pinch it together in the middle. You want to do this in a way that your printed ribbon does not flip over, unless you happen to have a ribbon that is printed on both sides. But you can't get them like that at Dollar Tree, not anywhere where I am anyway. But this is how this little ribbon stack is going to look. And then you can get jute if you want to. Tie that together and then tie it around the middle of that little pruffle bundle. See, you can just tie that around the back, just in case you don't have, again, zip ties or pipe cleaners around. You can use this. Just going to double knot it, and then you can trim it off. Or my preferred method, of course, is to use pieces of pipe cleaner to attach these down. Excuse me. Okay, so The pipe cleaners that we're going to be using are the regular size pipe cleaners, and we'll just be cutting those in half. That's all you're going to need. And then we're going to go down one side and then back up the other side. And it's going to look like this. See, it's already so nice and full. We're going to just turn those points down, and sometimes they'll try to close up like that, but that's okay. You can leave it like that. Still gives a lot of dimension, and it just looks cute to me. And I already like the way this looks with that orange and the black and white. Very classic, very nice look. And the color scheme is going to be great with that cat, I do believe. Use any color combinations you like though, and you can certainly use, there's a skeleton pick that's in the same sort of theme as the cat, and there's also a pumpkin. So you can use whichever one you want, and just use whatever colors you like. I'm going to sit it on top, pull those pipe cleaners around that pole down the middle, and do not pull these tightly. Pull it where it is just sitting, or it appears to be kind of floating on top of your ribbon bundles. You do not want to crush your cruffles and push down on your wreath. You don't want to do that. It doesn't take a lot, and then if you need to make it a little tighter, you can tighten it up just a little bit, because you don't also want it to slide around on your wreath. You don't want that to happen, or your swag. But you can see I still have a little movement there, so if I wanted to put the little cat face off to the side, you know, kind of sideways or whatever, slanted, I could do it that way. And this is how it's going to look so far. If you wanted to stop at this point, you can. So I decided to pull out some of these pumpkins I had left over from fall, and I'm going to use these black glittery ornaments from Dollar Tree, and then one of these with a spider web on it. These come off the pick very easily. I'm going to put the spider web one right in the bottom. No need to keep that little cap on the top, because if you glue it, it can still pop off of the cap. So I'm just going to glue the ornament itself down into each of those little bundles. And I'm going to alternate all the way around. Go ahead and put yours in place if you want to, so you get an idea of what's going to go where. Just part of planning, just part of prepping. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I like to do it this way sometimes, just to give me a better idea of the direction I'm going in. I don't want that little hanging part to be up top, so just be sure that you tuck that under, and I also don't want a seam in the front. I do not like that. So I kind of put it toward the bottom or off to the side, and you see the pumpkin, I'm going to put it where you can't necessarily see that hole in the bottom, so it's kind of slanted and then nestled down in there so that you don't see it. And then we'll continue all the way around until everything is glued into place. Subscribing to the channel is another great way to support me and the channel, and it tells YouTube that I'm doing a good job. Okay. So now once you have all those down, we're going to work on a bow. So we're going to make a 9-inch loop in this ribbon. So just fold, fold, fold until we have 2 loops on each side. And you can just turn it sideways and look down in the ribbon, and you can see 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm going to cut the excess off because this is all of this beautiful ribbon that I have left. And I'm going to make a bow, and I would like to have tails on the ribbon. But I'm going to show you something unique you can do for your ribbon tails if you're running out of ribbon but you still really want a bow. Now, for those of you who do not like bows or don't want to put a bow, just leave it off. You certainly don't have to put it on there. You could put another cruffle right on the top if you wanted to. This one's going to be 8 inches, so this will be a little bit smaller than the black and white. And I'm going to fold this over so that I have 3 loops on one side and 2 on the other. This is going to have 5 loops in it. And I do have a bow maker that I made, but I'm just trying to show y'all, in case you don't have the supplies to make one, or you don't want to make one, that you can do bows, beautiful bows, without having to have any special tools. So then I'm going to go under here, cut this. We'll stack the smaller ribbon on top. I'll take a zip tie, or you can use a pipe cleaner or floral wire or a bread tie, whatever you have. I am only going to pull this until I get it slightly cinched in the middle, okay? I'm going to turn it over and make sure that the pleat in the front is exactly how I want it. And that's pretty easy to do because it wants to pleat on its own, right? But I don't want my ribbon flipped over to the point where I can't fluff it out. So I'll cinch it down, cut off this back. I also will be feeding a piece of wire through the back of the bow to attach it down to the swag. So before you tighten down your zip tie or your pipe cleaner that you're using, be sure you put an extra piece back there so you have something to attach to your form. All right, so the bow in the back is almost going to make an X, and the one in the front is almost going to be like the shape of a flower. Pull each of those from the inside. Trying to get it in. I know it's in there. There it is. Okay. And then we'll fluff them out. You can make these a little flatter. You can make them a little higher. The little ends that are left up, that come from the inside in that last piece that we cut, you can cut them very high so they're not in there, or to make a fuller bow and a little more interest, you can cut those at a dovetail and use them as part of your bow. Okay, so we've got this one piece, but we need two tails, right? We're going to fold it in half. This is a very thin ribbon, and my scissors are sharp. So I'm just going to go on the inside, make a few snips, and then I can slide my scissors and take that into two pieces. I'm also going to cut off the metal edging, which you can use on other projects if you need to. You can use this to attach bows down, or, you know, to assemble things, because it's a piece of wire. So you could certainly save it, put it in your little bucket. Now we have these two pieces. I'm going to cut them in a slant. What are we going to do with these two pieces? Well, we're going to layer them on top of another ribbon. So we're going to grab that orange and we're going to cut that into section. It's going to be the same, pretty much the same length as the colored ribbon that's going to sit right on top. That's going to be a nice fit. That's going to work. Now I've got a school glue stick, and I'm going to put it right down the middle. Using this Elmer stick is very helpful because I can see exactly where I'm putting that little stripe of color. Now at first I thought, okay, I'll do this and this will be perfectly fine. Then I got to thinking, what if it doesn't hold? And the purple does fade, so there's no concern about that. So then I turned it over and I added a little bit of clear Elmer's glue to the back of it and allowed it to dry. Once it is dry, it makes it a little more sheer, but you know, mine's not completely dry yet. I'm going to stack them on top of each other, fold them over. I'm going to squish them together, and that wire that I threaded through there, I'm going to wrap it very tightly around those tails to make it look like it's one piece. Always squish up your little bow. You always do that, so be sure you are constantly fluffing that up, that bow. I'm going to feed it through and around that pole that's in the back, about 3 inches down, but I'll show you all that, you know, toward the end of this project. And I'm going to make sure I have it exactly where I want it and fluff it. I'm going to use the remainder of that wire that I used to attach it as a hanger, and I'll show you that, you know, later, like I said. Okay, now you can decide what to do with your edges. Once you put that glue on there, it's going to make it kind of stiff, which is great. You can cut it into shorter tails, you can curl it, you can kind of give it a little wrinkle and attach it down to anything that you have on your wreath. Look at that! I love it. Okay, so now these little clippy spider pins will go right on the top of those pumpkins on the stems perfectly. And I love that. And it brings in that little spiderweb ball there at the bottom that you see. I think it looks really cute. And yes, it is a mishmash of all kinds of stuff. You can see how I made the little hanger. I just twisted it back on itself with a loop. You can't see it there because, you know, I got my little clips out of order, but you get the idea. What do you think about him? Very festive.
Click the box below for more.